Welcome to another episode of Open for Discussion. I'm your boy, C. Maurice Ball, and I am just excited about today. But before I get into who I have on here, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button when it shows up, or when you watch it, hit the subscribe button, because just like everybody else, we're all trying to build a platform. But that's neither here nor there. But today, let me tell you, this young lady that I have on here today has been on Fox. She's been on CBS. She is an amazing coach. She's out here touching lives, changing lives, one person at a time. She is in the trenches with folks and seeing life change and life transformation. She has her master's in education. She has all the degrees. And I'm telling you, when I say that she is phenomenal and she's impactful and she is a beast at what she does, I am just completely honored that she chose time out of her busy day to come and pull up and hang out with me. So without further ado, kick that intro, and then we'll be right back. Well. I am introducing to some and presenting to others this amazing woman of God, Miss Michelamone. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm awesome.
Good.
I am awesome. So I always kind of have a story, because sometimes, like, the people that I meet that I've been having on here lately, I just didn't meet them normal, right? I kind of met them differently. So let me give y'all the backstory of how we met. So she is part of the transformation team, and they are a set of coaches that pull up on TikTok, and they get out here in these internet streets and do some things. And I had the pleasure of interviewing actually everybody on the team except her. So I was like, oh, she playing me. I was like, see, the whole team that I already said I was cool people. And so I just kind of kept popping up in her live and hitting. And she was like, you know what? I'm pulling up. And so I was like really excited. And I'm really excited that she's here, and she has an amazing story, and we're going to walk through that, and we're going to just sit here and have fun and talk about life. So that's how we met. That's how she ended up here. And
I'm extremely honored to be here.
Well, thank you to make me cry. So where are you currently residing?
I am in the Atlanta metro area. I've been out in Atlanta since 2019.
2019, Atlanta. We lived in Swanee. You familiar with Swanee?
Yeah, I am.
So we lived. So I just say Atlanta because it's a suburb of Atlanta, right. But we lived in Swanee for a minute, and it was actually a really good place for us. Where are you originally from?
Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah. You're a South Side Chicago person too?
I'm all over Chicago person. I was born on the South Side, raised on the West Side, ended up in the suburbs before I came here. So all over.
All over.
Yeah.
Okay. Chicago.
Tech high school.
So you grew up, born and raised in Chicago?
Born and raised in Chicago. Spent a little stint in California, but for the most part in Chicago.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you got a little gangster to you. I a little bit.
Don't let the smooth taste fool you.
hey, we all of us from certain areas clean up pretty well, but don't be fooled.
Don't be fooled.
Oh, hey, we still got a little gangster in us.
Right.
And depending on the situation, a lot of gangster in us.
Right.
So, So, so in your family makeup, where do you fall at in the pecking order of siblings?
I am the oldest of seven in a blended family.
A oldest of seven in a blended family.
Yes. My mother
Okay.
had three girls. So we are the oldest in that pecking order, if you will. And then comes my father's current wife, which is my mom. I call her my mom. My mother passed when I was 15. Um,
Okay.
and so my mom has two girls, and then his previous wife had a girl and a boy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm already kind of piecing this all together. Um, the oldest of seven,
Mm-hmm.
and now were y'all all living in the same space?
Yes. For
Okay.
well, let me say it this way. Two of them no, not completely. But my baby sister grew up with everybody. So the baby grew up with everybody. I kind of came out when two of them came in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in your in in your growing up, like how was that dynamic growing up, making that adjustment growing up?
Well, it depends which part you want.
Meaning, like let's go back to because at one point you were the only child, right?
I
And
was the only child for 5 years.
so then you had two other siblings beneath you.
Yes.
Okay. How was that? How was that growing up when you were you a good big sister?
I was.
Are
I
you
was a
currently a
mother.
good big sister? And were you a good big sister?
I think I'm a good big sister. I think so. Um,
Okay.
they still talk to me, so I guess I'm still a good big sister. But I was a mother at 7 because I was taking care of a 2 year old and a 3 year old. Well, let me see. Hold on. Two, yeah, 2 and 3 because I was about to be 8. So yeah, I was a mother taking care of them while my mother would go off and she liked men. She liked men, and so whenever a cute guy came along, she felt like she didn't want to be a mother. So she would leave us. And yeah,
You,
she would go off. And I remember one time actually going to steal food because she had
mm,
left us there for about a week. And came upon a group of people standing in the courtway. I don't know if you know about courtways. You know about courtways?
I know about court ways.
Just standing in the courtway, a group of people standing in the courtway. Tom, don't drop her, don't drop her, drop her. And I'm moving my little bitty self through the crowd trying to figure out what's happening because I done snuck myself outside. Wasn't supposed to be outside, but me and my sisters were hungry, so let me go get some food. Had to go to the little corner store, figure out what I could put in my jacket.
Hmm.
And I come up on this group of people, and my mother is hanging from her feet with some man holding her over a balcony.
Wow.
And I remember her seeing me, and in her seeing me, I ran because I didn't think in my brain didn't say your mother's hanging off of a balcony by her feet with some man holding her, and he could drop her anytime and she can, be unalive. I didn't
Hmm.
think that. In my brain was, oh my gosh, she sees me, I'm gonna get a whooping. So
Isn't that something?
you say what?
I say, isn't that something?
Something, yeah.
Like you, because of the way that we were raised, even though the situation was dangerous,
Yeah.
we still thought that you're still thinking, "Oh, I'm about to get a whooping. I ain't supposed to be outside." Not that my mom is hanging upside down like that is at that young age.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
And so
So that be
I did end up getting that whooping because he apparently let her go and she came on home a day or so later. I got a whooping because she said I should have called the police. I didn't know how to call the police.
wow. So so based off of that at 7, so in most of those situations, you don't have a chance to be a child because you are an adult, right? Like you are out here trying to fend for you and your sisters.
Yeah.
And um, how now let's kind of just fast forward just a little bit.
Mhm.
Did that happen consistently as you was young, or was there a point like when you turned 10 or 11 that things kind of changed, or by this time was it because you were already a parent that you just went ahead and just went into survival mode when your mom would disappear?
Well, what happened is my father ended up, the neighbors below us found out. They used to hang with my father and my mom before they broke up, because my mom and dad were married at first. And then when they broke up, the neighbors downstairs had, called my dad and was like, hey, your kids has been home by themselves for a couple of weeks. And so my dad pulls up, him and his boy, with these two Doberman pigeon. I don't even know if I'm saying the dogs right, but Doberman.
Dobermans,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pull up with these two dogs. And so I'm like, my mama told me not to let Jesus in. So you want me to open the door? I don't care how many dogs you got, you know. So I'm like, wait a minute. So he's like, he had to convince me to let him in. I'm like, oh God, when she come home, I'm gonna be in trouble. Like, this ain't gonna go well. And so they ended up staying there for a couple of days because she hadn't come home. But he ended up taking us and raising us, and I was raised by my dad from that point on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that damage your relationship with your mom?
Well, my mother knew that she wasn't necessarily a nurturing mother. She knew that. So she was okay with that. I remember on her deathbed, her telling me that she was sorry for that she did not know how to be a mother. That she was too busy trying to find herself. And she was kind of like that person that she would, seek out love in all the wrong places.
Hmm.
And she had a beautiful voice. And she would try to find herself. And so she knew that. And I had to forgive her for that. She didn't know what she was doing. She had no clue. She was the oldest of three girls as well. And so in that, her mother wasn't really close with her, so she didn't learn how to be a mother. I think that people assume that because we're more women, that we know how to nurture, we know how to be women, we know how to be mothers, and that's not true for everybody. I didn't learn how to nurture until I think my kids were well into teenage years.
We become pattern. We become examples. We become the examples that we see.
Absolutely.
So in the non-nurturing side of it, on the male side of that is the men don't cry, you got to be tough kind of thing. My dad never showed me love or anything like that. So so the male side of that is the hardness, not being able to express yourself, and the emotional side of it. And then on the flip side, you're saying that you wasn't able to, that but you learned motherly skills though.
Yeah, I learned. Well,
Me.
I learned. Okay, so my kids got what they wanted. I was a provider. I
Mhm.
was taught by a provider to be a provider. My dad taught me how to make money, so I knew how to do that. The mothering side of things, not so much. I had to apologize for a lot of things when they got grown.
A- And
Yeah,
that goes a long way.
it does.
It goes a long way. So when you transitioned to your dad's, how old were you when you transitioned to your dad?
I was 8.
8.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my
That's
mom
about the
finally
same age
left.
I was when I transitioned to my dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you transitioned, did did life change for you drastically?
Um, I don't know if I want to say drastically. I think that I had then somebody that was more stable, because my dad was
Hmm.
more stable, but my dad still was trying to find a wife to take care of his 3 girls. So it was still challenging, just in a different way, because he then was looking for the motherly type and not
Hmm.
necessarily vetting real. He ain't vet real. He ain't had no vetting skills at all. My poor dad. Um,
Daddy, what's that? You talk about back then? What?
Yeah, he was like, "You got kids? Great, come over here." You can be a mother, right? And so he had no idea. But and so we got a couple of those women were not nice. They were very mean or abusive, if you will. So
Hmm.
I, ran into that. But we had a place to stay, if that makes sense. I don't want to say my dad was a good dad for what he knew. He made some
Right.
mistakes, absolutely, but my dad, I had to give him grace. Like, my dad didn't know how to do what he was doing. He didn't know too many friends that had three girls that they were taking care of.
Again, you learn you just become a product of your environment, and you're doing the best with what you know.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and, and our stories are are similar,
Wow.
because when it comes down to that, like I left my mom at 8, and went with my dad. Like, he used to have to drive. Like, I'd be in the neighborhood playing, and he'd come through the neighborhood and swoop me up, and then we go hang out. My mom really didn't care. I got two older sisters. She trying to keep them from getting pregnant. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And then he dropped me off a couple of blocks away from the house. I just go back in the house like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it had came time to make that choice, I chose my dad. So when you moved over there, things are being consistent. You don't have to be as much of a parent. You get a chance to be a little girl. Like, what was some of the things that you pulled that you carried on to, like, middle school from that? Were you the angry young lady? Were you the bully? Were you reclusive? What trauma came out of that as you start to be in at school age, like, say, eighth grade, seventh, eighth grade?
Well, I had went to seven different grammar schools, so I never really made a lot of friends. I
Wow.
was the one that, I very smart. I never had issues. I was valedictorian in my eighth grade class, top 10% of my high school. So I was able to excel in that, right? So I had to find something that made me feel like I was doing something, if you will. And plus, my dad didn't play. He was like, "School, you better get them good grades." Um, but like, I didn't grow up with a lot of friends. Like, my siblings, they have more friends than I had.
Hmm.
My circle was probably as big as a period. And in hindsight now, I know because of the call on my life where that came from. But it didn't. Yeah, I didn't grow up. I still didn't have the childhood, if you will. I still wasn't that.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that in that you missed out on something?
Um, I never felt like I missed out on anything. I think that if I would have had I think that if I would have gained friendships throughout the time and had to, hold on, like, "Oh, I'm leaving you. Oh, I'm leaving you." If it was ever that, then I think that would have felt like I missed something. But I never connected myself. So I
Mm,
would know how to come into the room, do what I had to do, connect for what I need to connect for, and then disconnect.
okay.
Hmm.
So then, when you transitioned into, like, high school, did any of the behaviors from, like, your mom had growing up of trying to find validation and out here seeking it through men, did that transfer to you? Or because you had a father that was kind of consistent, did that nullify the desire to have to go get affirmation and validation from these boys in high school?
Yeah, because I dated two guys in the whole high school time. One of them I dated 3 years in a row, and then my daughter's father, I ended up dating him after, towards the well, no, my freshman year I dated him, and then the last 3 years I dated one gentleman. So no, I didn't. I wasn't the person. I think that I was kind of self assured for a long time. I just didn't know. I didn't give a name to it. I didn't know what that was.
Mhm.
But I never really fit in. I was very, back in the day, if you pronouncing all your words, you too proper,
Right,
So
right.
here it is, this little chocolate little girl with little bitty hair, curly hair, no long hair like most girls, but they sound like the white girl, right? And so I really never fit in. But through high school, I had a best friend. Her name was Dina. We were best friends throughout the whole time in high school. And so I was able to find myself without without compromising who I was. Even though I didn't know who I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It was like I
yeah,
had to give up much to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that is an anomaly, because most people transition into that space and end up sacrificing something
Mhm.
in order to find that peace.
Mhm.
So you kind of skated through high school. Because when you got good grades, here's one of the things about having good grades. When you have good grades, there you're not on the radar at all. You could be out here robbing banks. You know what I'm saying?
And it's
You
so funny that you say that because like now, since I gotten grown, I love to go and have conversation with my dad and give him shock value. I'd be like, Dad, remember that I did this? He'd be like, you did that? Yeah, Dad. Like
right.
I would steal the car. So like because I wanted to the one boyfriend I had, I wanted to go see him. And so if my during that time, that was in the 80s when the whole crack era came about, and so we dealt with that with my parents, with my father and his ex-wife. So those are some of the things that we were dealing with, but I still had to be the adult. I still had to watch after my siblings. And every now and again I would get in trouble. Like and wasn't little trouble. It was like stay home and watch your siblings, and don't go anywhere. Oh, don't go anywhere. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, huh? I ain't coming back to 9 o'clock at night, and y'all stay here. I'm going to get a protractor. What? So I didn't get in little trouble. I stole the car and come back and the car was totaled, so but I didn't get into trouble with boys though. Like that wasn't my thing. When I mean I was practically out of high school before I became, even sexually active. So yeah,
But you were still mischievous.
I was very mischievous because
Yeah.
I thought I was smart.
But
I
you
feel
weren't.
like, yeah, well, you know what I'm saying? But I thought I was smarter than everybody. I'm like, I can get away with this. Watch me.
And grades are but see, this is the thing. Like, grades are if my child coming here with all A's, all honor roll, I ain't care. I'm not peeling that onion back at all, right? Because the school ain't calling me saying that and I'm looking at his grades and the performance. So
Right.
you understood that at an early age
Hmm.
that if I keep the heat off of me,
Right.
I can go out here and be in these streets, and
Yeah.
move, because I'm pretty sure, yeah,
Yeah.
you stole the car. That's what you got caught with. But I'm
I,
pretty sure
I
there was some.
gang bang. I sold drugs. I used to get high. I used to drink. I did it all, which is by the time I turned 21, I was like, I don't want to do none of this.
But your grades kept the heat off of you.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you was gang banging. I mean, I know there's two major gangs up there, in that area. Um, so which where
I was a vice lord.
you was a vice lord.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I
Okay.
did. I did some stuff, right? Yeah. And that was with the boyfriend that never got it. Like it's so funny because like I went back home. I never was one to go back home too often. But I remember going back home and we were all sitting around talking. And he was like, Muffin got it. I was like, no, he didn't. He never got this. And he said, shh, shh, shh. I said, no, you told them that we did it? He was like, we was together for 2 years. Yeah, but that don't mean that you got it. Like,
Right.
well,
Oh, he was
he lied.
yeah, that's a that's not a good move when you gotta,
No. And we were grown by the time we talked about this. It was so funny. It was like, dude, are you serious? And he was like, oh man, forget it then. I was like, no, don't forget it. You should have told them that. Are you serious? Like, boy, get up out of here.
so so you gang banging and running drugs.
Mhm.
you was a vice lord,
Yeah.
the only incorporated gang in the country.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because the history of it, they did start off as a community service uh, organization,
Yeah. Until the
but
youth got a hold to it.
yeah, yeah. So I can't even picture you out here throwing your hand signs, throwing, throwing your hand signs up. I
Yeah, with
mean,
the bandana.
bandanas.
I got
Was you a
pictures of me
fighter?
with the bandana on.
Did you fight?
Oh, listen, I was a fighter. I listen. So there was this dude named Earl. Earl thought that he was the baddest, right? Until I got hold to him. And I'll never forget it because my sister, my baby sister, had a quarter. And he thought he was gonna take her quarter. And so she was like, he come and take my quarter. And I walked up to my sister, took her quarter, and I said, give it back. And I punched him and knocked him out.
You got hands like that?
I
Okay.
think it was a fluke.
You got so you know now you got rep. You got street cred.
Yeah.
Let me fight. Hey, y'all better not mess with her. Later on when we talk about this cruise, hey, y'all better not mess with her. She throw them things
I keep
and she
telling
be
people
out
don't
here.
let the smooth taste fool you.
Hey, that's so was it so were you officially in the gang? Like did they jump you in?
No, see,
Okay.
I was the girlfriend of the boy that was in the gang, and so I just
Okay.
hung out and did what they told me to do. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't. I didn't go through the whole jumping in and all that. Mm,
Okay.
no.
Because I mean I was like that's gonna be a whole nother process of you getting out. So now you move out. I mean, you transitioning out. You went to did you go straight to college out of high school?
I went to college for a year out of high school to Chicago State, um,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up pregnant at 21. So I kind of was in and out because I was trying to figure my way out. My dad was he was the type of person, well, he still is. I'm sorry, like he's not here. My dad's the type of person that if you say you want to do something, he's like, oh, try it. But like, I could try this. So I tried a lot of different things. I went to school originally for art until the art teacher told me that I needed to do it a certain way. And I'm like, how you gonna tell me how to draw? Like, this is art. It's expression. Like, you don't do that. Like, who does that, right? I'm like, forget it. I'll be a psychiatrist, right? So changed my major, got off into my son's father, and ended up pregnant.
Okay. So how was that? How was being um pregnant at how old were you at about what 20
20.
21 21
Mhm.
which is that I mean at least it wasn't earlier than that so
Right.
that's actually not a bad age to be pregnant.
Yeah.
um how was that when you became a mother did of your own baby like you were a mother to your siblings because of situation
Mhm.
so you had to you could still be kind of hard and harsh to them because they were your siblings.
Right.
How was transitioning into a mom for you when it's your child and now you have to be the mother that you didn't have a good example of? How was that for you?
I was very protective. My son's father did not want to be a father to my son. He wanted me, but he didn't want to have a kid at the time.
Hmm.
He already had a child. His daughter was a little bit older. I think she was like 5 or 6 years old. And so his thing was because well, not hindsight, but after I left him, I found out that he was 10 years older than me. I didn't know. He kept telling me that he was basically my age. He was like, I'm 25. No, he was not, you know. So come to find out he was a lot older than me. He was basically playing with me. I was the toy. And so
Hmm.
he didn't expect me to get pregnant. He was like, no, you can't get pregnant. Like, I got a whole family over here. And so I mean, like, I was so naive that I went to see her and the daughter's mother. Well, we became family after that, but went to see her and told the woman that I was just his friend. You know, but they never lived together. They didn't live together. They co-parented and they were trying to get together. But that was a mess. And but I so by the time I had my son, I was very protective And when he didn't act like he wanted to be a father, the one thing I did not want is abuse, because I had had enough of that as a child, being abused by my father's girlfriends, being abused,
Mhm.
so I didn't want that. So any type of anything that looked like abuse, when it came to my kids, we gonna be in this little circle together. Ain't nobody coming here towards them, right? So I was very protective.
Okay.
Hmm.
Understandably, because now it's your trauma that is kind of putting up the barriers,
Right.
and then we come out of that, and then we look at those things, and we put these life preservation things in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Right.
And so, did how bad was that relationship when you like when you realized that he was a whole nother dude? He's 10 years older. Were you already in too deep? And was it an easy break? Was it a hard break? And then what came out of that as far as the relationship between your son and him?
So he would basically tell me, if I can't have you, I don't want him. So he really wasn't around. I would always try to beg him, just spend time with your son, spend time with your son, and he wouldn't. We got a little bit of child support, like $20 a month. It wasn't even a lot. But it catapulted me to do better, because I was like, I don't want my son to live in poverty. All it took was the social worker to come to my house one time and tell me that I couldn't have a TV. And I was like, wait, hold on. So, because y'all give me this little money, you gonna tell me I can't have a TV? Watch me go make some money. So that was like that. Because what happened is me and him had got into an argument, and he pulled out all the phone lines. It was back in the day we had the phones in the wall.
Yeah.
He pulled out all the phones and was blocking me in, and told me that I could leave, but I couldn't take my kid. I was like, never again. So I had to pray and say, Father, cover my son while I'm going and walking from, because at the time we were living in Chatham, and had to walk basically a mile and a half to a payphone, because that's when they started pulling the payphones out. So there was the only one at the grocery store, which was a mile and a half away. So I had to go
Mm.
and find a payphone and have one of my friends to come and get me. She came and got me, and I left. My son was 3 weeks old, and I never turned back.
There's there's sick and tired, and then there's desperation.
Yeah.
And sick and tired are two options. You're sick and you're tired. Two
Hmm.
options.
Hmm.
Desperation calls you to do stuff like that,
Hmm. Yeah.
to leave with what's on your back,
Yeah.
with whatever you have, whatever you can grab and bounce, because of the desperation that you need to change. Now, in that piece, you're still trying to figure out who you are as a woman.
Yeah.
You're still trying to grow as a woman. You're trying to develop as a woman. You're trying to develop as a mother. You just
Hmm.
had this breakup. You're trying to put the pieces back together for that. Now, when that glass shattered, did it shatter, and did you go through the pieces to try to pick up what you needed, or did you turn the page and just start completely over?
I think that I got into survival mode. I don't think that I even thought. I think that it was just a matter of because my original call was to my dad, and my dad was like, "Sometimes you got to get through some things. You got to go through some things." And I was thinking, "Wait, did I just tell you that he was abusing me? Did I tell you the week before he was driving me down a side street with my head hanging out the car? Did I just tell you that, yeah, I'm in danger here, Dad?" And with my dad, again, my dad's thought process was, men do what they do, right? And so I was just in survival mode. I was trying to figure out how to survive, and I just kicked in. So I was able to get a job during that time, making almost $30,000 a year. And at that time, shoot, you was barely making 20 if you was, coming out of high school, with no degree at that time. So I looked to what I knew what to do, and what I knew what to do is I knew how to make money.
Now, in this process, where at what point did God become real to you? Were you did you start off as a believer at a young age? Did one of these situations as you were growing up say, I need to, know this God that everybody's talking about? Or were you already in your adulthood before you before you started to develop your relationship with God?
So I grew up in the church. My grandmother was a reverend. You know, we was in church Monday through Sunday, twice on Wednesday. Um, and so I grew up in the church. I knew the Lord. I knew of him, I should say. Um,
Hmm.
it took me, I remember before my son and my daughter were born, and my daughter was probably few months old. And I remember sneaking out of my dad's house because at the time I had gone back home because my daughter's father and I had broke up while I was 6 months pregnant. And I was, had gotten sick at work. I was a manager at Walgreens and passed out. They put me on a unpaid leave, so I had to go back home. And I remember sneaking out of the house. It's the dead of winter. I'm standing there in my fur coat in the parking lot of Jewel because at that time, I had to find some place to just go. So I'm sitting up against my car smoking a cigarette. Woman comes up to me and she says, can I bother you for a moment? I said, you can, but I'm not putting my cigarette out. And she was like, you ain't got to put your cigarette out. I just need to tell you that the Lord is waiting for you. I was like, waiting for me for what?
Mm.
And she was like, well, first of all, your man of God is on his way and he coming to get you. Da, 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 da. She just began to prophesy to my life. And, I end up throwing the cigarette down and hugging her and crying and the whole thing. Roughly about little bit less than a year later, I meet this guy, my first husband, who happened to be a deacon at the church and invited me to church. And I was like, oh, my man of God came for me. So I began to go to church with him. My bishop at the time, Bishop Simon Gordon, I love that man, began to just pour. I began to sit under him and just learn as much as I could. Went through ministerial classes and all of those things, and became an armor bearer. Because at that time, I'd given my life to Christ, and I began to learn who the Father was. Um, Started teaching new members class, just all this thing. So that's around the time when I remember the very first time I spoke in tongue. Him and I had gotten married. The gentleman, the first husband, we got married, and I was like, I want to speak in tongue. Why can't I? Everybody else in the church is speaking in tongue. I want to do it too. And I remember him saying, just relax, just close your eyes, let's talk. So we're talking, and he was praying for me, and he laid his hands on my tongue, and I could feel the rumble, and it just came out. And I was like, oh, I spoke in tongue, I was super excited, like a kid in a candy store at that point. And it just opened me up to the things of God. And from that point on, I turned around, one good time. But for the most part, I've lived my life for the Lord.
How old were you at that point when you first?
27.
27.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I got saved at 25. So like parallels in
Yeah.
that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got married to your first husband,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing how to be a wife. How was that? How
You
was
know
the
what?
adjustment?
I thought I was a good wife, right? Well, he even says it, even hindsight, like we've spoke about this years ago, right? And he was like, "You're a good wife," but he cheated. Like, I don't know, like dudes, like think that why do you want to cheat on me? Like, I'm a good person. But that's been like my Achilles heel when it comes to relationships, men that cheat. And I always say, and Father, I love you, Dad, if you watch this, right? But I always say that we pattern what our children will go through. And so my thought process is, and this is how I think. The scripture says that your children's children shall be blessed, right?
Right.
But if Deuteronomy also says, but if you don't do this, then your children will be cursed,
Right.
right? And so watching my father be an infidel for a lot of my years,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I got. And so he cheated. And so I left. We didn't have a conversation. The girl called my house, child. She called my house. Who is this? Let me talk to your husband. I hung up the phone. She called my cell phone. How'd you get my cell phone number? I hung up that. She called his cell phone number. She just kept round robining these phones. So
Uh-huh.
finally I said to her, "Give me 72 hours and you can have them." And she gave 72 hours. I was out. I left him with a fan and a towel.
The fan that go in the window.
Listen, you know that the rotating fan.
Oh,
He was like, "Can you just leave the fan? Because you know I get hot when I sleep." Because I had
ah,
just moved out of my nice co-op, back in the day. I had just moved out of my nice co-op to save money to the projects. This brother put me in the projects, and then you want to act a fool on me?
so you left him with a fan and a towel in
That's how.
72 hours. And you made that decision fairly quick because, like you said, you've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've already, again, you're coming from a place of your trauma leading the charge, saying, you know what, not today.
Right.
Okay. So did you have any children with him?
No. My
Okay.
children are I've never been married to my children's fathers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you break out of that, you bounce. Um, Now you're still trying to pick the pieces up, right?
I'm
What was your
supposed to.
next move after that?
So I end up at my grandmother's house, and a gentleman that I used to work with, he was liking on me the whole time. And I decided, well, let me, they say the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else. So I decided to get under him, and we kicked it off. And he came to my grandmother's house. Now I got 2 kids, and I'm in a 10 by 10 room with bins all over the place. And we're in this twin size bed. And I felt like, I love Chris. He is my heart. But I feel like he wanted to save me.
Mm.
And so at the time I was trying to help him find a new house because he was going to buy a house. And, we young, and I'm going to buy a house instead of a condo or whatever. He ended up buying a house in the area that I was currently residing in, that South area. And I'm like, he's like, meet me at this address. I'm going to see this house. So I meet him at the address, and I'm sitting there like, "Hey, I'm here. I don't see the realtor." He's like, "Oh, I'll be there in a few minutes." I'm like, "What's going on?" So he pulled up, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll walk in and look." So the way the house is made, when you walk around you can walk around the entire house, and the kitchen and the laundry room set in the middle. And so as I'm walking through the house, "Oh, you can put this there, or you can put your studio over there, or you can do this. Oh, look at this family room. Oh my God, here's the kitchen." And when I walk in the kitchen, he's on his knee. And he was like, This is our house. Now mind you, I don't even think I was divorced. I think that I was waiting for the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Will you marry me?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah."
Okay.
And so end up getting divorced, getting a marriage license, and probably within the year of me leaving the first husband, I got married again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were broken and damaged going into technically on a rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this man proposed to you and you said yes.
Yeah.
And then y'all moved into that awesome dope crib,
Sure.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure that came with some kind of baggage. It cost you something,
Actually,
right?
actually, it was the best relationship ever.
Wow.
He did very well by me, very well. What happened is at the time I had my kids. Once I had my daughter on the table, time take them out, remove them, burn them, trip them up. I don't care what you do. They got to go, right? And so I couldn't give them children.
Ah.
So he, we had talked about me having my reversal, a tubal reversal. But once we got married and realized, oh, this is gonna be $10,000. We don't know if we can do that. Like, so here he is taking care of my two kids. Oh, I'm sorry. Here he is taking care of my two black kids.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This Caucasian, if he had hair, blonde hair, and blue-eyed man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, but spoke like Barry White.
Okay. Wow.
And so he was taking care of my children, but I couldn't give him any. And so the stressors of that began to be more stressors on us. And now I'm still going through the emotional stuff from the previous relationship and all the other
Mhm.
traumas that I never dealt with, right?
Mhm.
And so now I'm in a depression. And he's trying to pull me out of it, but he don't know how. He's trying to pull me out of the depression, trying to take care of my kids. He can't have no kids. He ain't never been through this. He ain't never been a father. He don't have no kids himself. What am I gonna do? Right? And he was like, I can't do this no more. Can't do this no more. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do this no more? I mean, like, this is perfect, right? But it pulled on him. It put on him a lot.
So putting this all together, one, you were still broken and damaged. This man proposed to you. He's taking care of you, and he's doing a great job. But the outside pressure is probably from his people.
Well, his mother loved me. His grandmother not so much.
Yeah,
Grandmother
it's
called me the N word.
yeah. It normally
Yeah.
this is what I try to stress. Like when I talk to couples, even my son, I'm like, you have to make sure that everybody is okay with the relation.
Yeah.
I mean, because if it came down to it, are they going to be willing to choose you over their family?
Right. And that typically doesn't happen.
That typically doesn't happen. That typically doesn't happen. So now so what, you're 20, what, 20,
At the time we got, oh shoot. We got married. I was like I was
28, 29?
no. Okay. So we got married. When did we get married? I know we ended up divorced around 2001. 2001. So I was like 30, 31.
So how long were y'all married?
18 months, a little bit over 18 months.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a year, man. Now, did you when he said he didn't want the marriage anymore, and you're sitting here thinking, okay, like again, did that ever run across your mind? Like, what was something that came out of that you look at you? Did you say it was him? Did you understand where he was coming from? What was your thought process as you were trying to still heal from somewhere else, heal in this, trying to pull yourself out of depression, still try to walk with God, still trying to be a mom, and then this happens? What was the what
I
was your thought
went
process?
into seclusion at that time. He left me better than I came into the door. He helped me put the down payment on my house, furnished my house, and I actually moved probably about a mile from him. So we lived in the same city, and I just went inside. I just went inside and decided that I'm just gonna work. I opened up an insurance agency. Well, I worked for an insurance agent first, and then ended up opening up our own insurance agency. And I was doing that for a while. I was just focused. I was focused, trying to. I thought that I was being a great mom, but I really wasn't there because I didn't know how. I was too
Mhm.
busy inside, too busy trying to figure out how to maintain my mental status because mental health, was something that was challenging in myself as well as with my mom. So it's something generational that came down,
Mhm.
and so that was a challenge for me. I didn't know. I turned it off. It's like I ain't dealing with that. right? Didn't wasn't with nobody for a while. Decided that I'm just gonna be by myself. And it's gonna be me and the Lord. And I looked for different churches because I had burned that one up. I think I felt like I did. You know what I'm saying? You know how
Right.
you
The
feel like,
perception.
oh, everybody know my stuff. I don't want to go there. So I would sneak in and sneak back out and sneak in and sneak back out when I needed it, right? But I remember being in my house, and one of my friends, she called me because at the time I did barber school and I did so many different things. And I remember having a friend call me, and she said that she wanted to invite me to church. And I was like, oh God, here we go. But I ended up going to church with her, and I ended up joining that church and was that at that church for a couple of years. And so I ended up meeting my next husband.
Okay. So,
It had been years. So I think I had been, we didn't, it was about 4 years between the second husband and the third husband.
okay.
Mhm.
So in this grind to be the provider, and you sacrificed time because time is what is on the table here.
Right.
So that means that you probably, I mean, the your kids probably felt like abandoned. Did
I
did
had
did
no clue.
and because you was a provider
Yeah.
and not knowing and so I'm not analyzing your stuff. I don't want you to. I'm not
Oh no, you're
counseling. I'm
fine.
just
You're fine.
like processing through this. Like, okay,
Mhm.
so in that in the pursuit of happiness, the climbing the corporate ladder, you masked all the pain by being successful,
Mhm. Yeah.
and and then doing that, not knowing that you were actually damaged in the relationship with your children.
Mhm.
Were they still accepting? Because kids are going to be accepting. They're going to love you regardless. They're going to open up open arms. But did it come to a point where they realized that mom's not going to say anything or do anything, or it is kind of what it is? And did they pull back from you?
Not until they got grown. Not until
Mm,
not until grown. When I think my daughter, she was almost out of high school when she decided to pull back. And that was during the time when I lost my mind. I mean, I'm saying this. I'm saying that not literally, but I was doing things. I was out in the world at that point. I was like, by church, I'm going to go hang out outside again. Right, I'm going to go chill. Right, and so I began to do some wild things. I began to just like really be in the street. And during that time, I was dating a woman.
okay.
And so my daughter was like, I hate you, And I'm like, well, if you hate me, leave. And so that's when she went and stayed with her dad for a little bit. And at that point, there was a separation. And right before all that went down, I sent my son because my son was becoming a man. And I didn't know how to teach him how to do that. And so
Hmm.
he wanted to, rev up. And I, again, in my brain, it never was, Mom, you abandoned your kids. Mom, you weren't there for your children. Mom, they're acting out against you. It was, what's wrong with these kids? They so ungrateful, kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
and so when he revved up at me, oh, you got to go, because I ain't gonna be scared while I got to sleep.
Right.
So when I
Right.
realized I was afraid of him, I sent him to my sister. And because my sister and him were basically siblings, if you will, because she's only a couple of years older than him, my baby sister. And so I felt like she could be able to reach him, and she was. And so he went to stay with her for a while. So he didn't experience the relationship when I was with a woman. Um,
Okay.
my daughter experienced all of that, and she hated me. She hated me.
So so in this discovery stage, because that's kind of what it was, discovery. Um, did you think that men were broken, and though that or was it a connection that came to the woman that made you say, okay, this could be a good healthy relationship?
What happened is I never thought, oh, I'm just gonna go to the other side. It was never that. It was Here's my friend. She's my best friend. We hanging out. Why did that feel like that when you touched my back? What was that? You like me? What?
Mm-hmm.
Why you like a girl? You know, innocently, for real. Like,
Right.
what was for real? Oh, that happens? You know, I mean, I wrote a poem about the whole thing. Like, that happened. And I liked it then.
Right.
And I had no idea that that could happen. And so I remember saying that I loved her, but knew it was wrong. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Knew in my soul that something was wrong. I felt like she was there for me. Like she and oh my mother, my mom, she hates it when I say this. But I learned how to love God through that. Because in my brain, I was in church because I was told to be. I
Mm-hmm.
was saved because I was told to be. I never had my own encounter with the Lord and said, hey, I know God, right? Because I couldn't see him.
Right.
And so, wait a minute, I love somebody that I see. And when I see her, if I look at her, how do I love her? Right. But I remember feeling like, so I never seen God before, so then I can love him too. It was, and so nobody, every time I said to my mom, yes, blasphemy. I said, no, mom, it's not blasphemy because the Bible says that you blaspheme against the Holy Spirit. Tell me, how is that blasphemy? You know, but I remember I went, but the Lord was saying, not so, child. Let me show you how I'm about to whoop your butt.
Uh-huh.
I started to get sick. Didn't know what was happening with me. My body was doing all types of craziness. I had severe vertigo, but they couldn't understand why because it wasn't typical vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
It was me not being able to hold myself up. My body was going through stress because now I'm dealing with this woman cheating on me too.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so I went through this stress. And I remember God telling me, I'll let you die the way that you are if you don't give me back your life. And I remember calling her up and saying, no more, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going back. I need the Lord. Right. And from that point, I haven't never left him. But it was a lot. It was crazy. I was fighting people in Atlanta. I was popping pills, going to sex clubs. I was a hot mess.
A lot of us were.
Man,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
see, here's the thing though. This is what I love about God, and even about you even being in here in this space right now, and even be able to share that confidently without any regret or condemnation or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
Because we understand that if we draw a line down a sheet of paper and put perfection on one side and flawed on the other side, there's only going to be one on one side.
Right.
Everybody else that God uses is going to be on the other side.
Yep.
So what I love about God is He'll give you that. I'm going to give you this. He'll give you that opportunity to operate in grace,
Mhm.
and then He'll give you the mercy to go along with that grace because we don't get what we deserve, right?
Absolutely.
We operate in this space, but He says, "Let me tell you how I'm going to use that,"
Mhm.
because I look at some of the dark places that I've been in, like
Mhm.
nothing you said. I'm looking saying, yeah, I can understand some of these dark places, but think about this: if you never journeyed down that path, if you never created the lifeline to be able to throw somebody, how does somebody get off the lifeline? How does somebody get off that path?
Right. Yep.
You have to. He takes our experiences and he says, I'm going to show you that I use everything from the rooter to the tutor.
Yeah.
And you in Lodabar, you think you in Nineveh, you think you in Sodom and Gomorrah,
Right.
you think you I don't care where you think you are, He says, one, I'm there.
Yeah.
If you make your bed in hell, I'm there.
Yeah.
He says that. But then he says, I'm going to show you how much I love you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that mess,
Yeah. Turn.
and that's going to be what you use to transform and touch lives.
Yeah.
But when you in it, guess what?
Man,
You ain't thinking about no.
you just kicking it.
You just wilding, having fun. And this is I tell everybody like, yo, if anybody tell you that they wasn't having fun sinning, they was in the wrong place.
In the wrong place because they
Because
was having fun.
I was kicking it on
Kicking it.
all kind of sin levels.
Right.
You couldn't tell me nothing because what? You want me to go to church and
Right.
be what? Y'all no.
No,
Now,
listen, let me tell you how I walked into my first lady's house, office in the church. I was like, yeah, I need to talk to you for a minute. She was like, yeah, I've been praying for you. And, what do you want to talk to me about? I was like, yeah, so I'm not coming back to church. She was like, what? I said, I'm not coming back. And she was like, and where are you going? Whose church are you going to go? I'm not going to no church. I'm just going to go kick it. That was who, like, I've never been able to keep my foot here in the church and still sin because I'll be balling on everybody's altar. Every time
right.
going from the house, stopping at church on the altar, stopping the church. That was me, right? So I'm like, nah, let me just go out here, find out for myself, and pray that the Lord, not even my mind was thinking, I'm gonna pray that the Lord keep me while I'm out here, but I'm just gonna go find out for myself.
Wow. Wow. So okay. So apparently, you realize that those streets wasn't where it's at. Now, you said something your about your relationship with the young lady that she went and cheated too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was your acceptance a little bit was it extended acceptance because she wasn't a male? Or did you treat her the same way that you treated the males when they did it?
Uh, at that point, I was like, wait a minute. So I did all of that and you did this? All right. You can't beat them, join them. At that point, roles switched. And I told her the girl she had cheated with, I said, I can get her. She was like, no, you can't. I said, watch me.
Mm.
And so I proceeded to pursue this woman and to get her and make sure that it was done in front of her.
Well, if you gonna do it,
Listen, I had cut all my hair. I ain't had no hair. I was a girly girl when she met me, like I am now. Like and more of my girly is kind of calmed down. Like I want to be more natural, more myself, more authentic now. And I think I need to hide behind things if I put lashes on because I want to, not because I felt like I had to. But I had to have my hair, I had to have my nails on, I had to have my lipstick, my eyelashes. I was that girl, right? And so by the time it was over, I was like, what up? What? Hair gone, wearing braid stuff. I mean, like thinking I was a dude.
oh, so you lost your identity completely.
Completely. Mm-hmm.
Man, do you so is that where the title of your book came from?
No, that came from the fourth husband.
Okay, let's so now you break up with this young lady.
Mm-hmm.
Now you are a guy that you're in a perception or the role of a dude. How did you?
No, that was before the breakup was me giving my life back to Christ.
Okay, so
Right.
so boom, you getting back on the straight and narrow.
Right.
Then you meet husband number 4.
Yes. And
Was you healed?
I was healed, I think. Right.
Okay.
And I say it this way. I was healed to the extent of like I never thought about her, right? But that doesn't mean that I was healed from all the other stuff.
Right.
So I was turned away from that, and like, no, I'm not never doing that again. But not healed from the pain, from the stuff, right? Um,
Right.
K Short said it all the time. You healed from the person, but not necessarily the pain that they caused.
Right.
And so I got back into the church and began into ministry, and was, because one of the things that I found out throughout this whole time is that I've been searching for my mother's nurturing love in everything.
Mm.
Like I couldn't find that. And so I was looking for that. And so that's why it was so easy for me to get attached to this woman, because oh, now she's a woman and I
Yeah.
love her, you know. And so I was easy prey.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Easy prey.
Which you normally see that on the flip side of not having a father there and the affirmation and the validation, but
Right.
it came from a nurturing standpoint.
Yeah.
And
Let me just grab my chargers. My phone is about to die. My
mhm,
computer is about to die.
the best thing about doing it like this, guess what?
You can pause it and
And we'll edit all this out.
right. Sorry about that.
Oh no, you good.
Okay,
You
there we
good.
go. Okay. So yeah.
So in that process, you know, when you finally kind of got back to yourself and you are saying, okay, God, that was a phase. I know what I'm looking for now, the nurturing piece. Did you discover that in that process? The
I
the,
was
the nurturing piece,
I
did you
knew it was,
discover?
yeah, I learned how to be a nurturer from being
Okay.
her, because she was the type of person. She was a what they call a femme stud. So she was feminine, but she was more of the aggressor, more of the stud, right? And so
Uh-huh.
she never really came out to her family, if you will, until it was me. Because I'm like, hey, we're gonna be like this. Everybody gonna know. Because you ain't finna have me in the closet and in the closet, right?
Right.
So so that's when people started to realize, but still certain people still didn't know. My family knew. All of my
Mhm.
family knew what was happening and all that, right? So I learned how to be a nurturer during that time because I was still caring for her, right? But during the time of me, getting my life back together and really finding myself, I've always the enemy has always caught me up with people, with relationships, with me getting into relationships, looking for again that love that I didn't get from my mother. So I had been saved and got myself back together, get back in ministry, and then here comes husband number four.
Okay.
Was a minister, was a minister at a church, at the very first church that I was at the first time. That met
Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
that my first husband had taken me to.
Okay. So,
Mhm.
so you said a couple of things. I just want to kind of just touch on those. You said, now, did your relationship with your children change because now you starting to learn how to nurture?
It didn't change like it should have, if that makes
Okay,
sense. Because by
but
that
it started
time
to
it was,
get better.
well, it started to. I wouldn't. No, I think that my relationship with my kids is better now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And the other thing, when you're moving in those kind of spaces, do were you worried about the perception of what people thought about you? So were you completely delivered from people at that point?
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't care, and I still don't care. Like I don't. One of the things that I One of the benefits, if you will, for lack of better terms, of moving around a lot and not gathering friends is
Ah,
that if
yeah.
you didn't have, so what? Because you were always I was always a new girl, right? So being always the new girl, everybody talked about me.
Right.
I didn't care. So, it didn't bother me what people thought.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, because you were moving a certain kind of way, and sometimes maybe like I could hear you saying that she hadn't told her parents because she was, her people, because she was a prisoner to the perception.
Mm-hmm.
And you were moving different. So now you here, and you healed. You in church getting your praise on, you know, teaching Bible study and all this other stuff, devouring the word, and then husband number 4 pull up on you.
Yeah, yeah. I by that time I had really started to come into my prophetic. And the husband number 4 reaches out. Hey, I've been watching you, remember me? And I'm like, yeah, I remember you, and he's like, yeah, I've been watching you for a while. And, maybe we should connect. I'm like, okay. And so we ended up going out on a date. And I remember like, oh my God, this brother fine. Like, like, oh my God. Right. And he just began to wine and dine me. Like dove all the way in. I was like, oh my goodness, he fine. He a pastor and he taking care of me. Oh, I mean, all the way down to when he finally asked me to marry him, which was very shortly after. I mean, like I got so love bombed. I had no idea that I was being love bombed, but I was love bombed, honey. And he won it over. We end up having a private ceremony because we want our flesh to get hot,
Right.
and having a public ceremony like 6 months later.
Okay.
In the public ceremony, he fainted, he passed out, and I was like, was he scared? He's nervous. Nobody. I'm like, okay, something's not right. Whatever. Come to find out he was sick. And I had told me, like, you need to go to the doctor, because we had promised that we was going to get these HIV tests. We were going to take, I did my stuff, right?
Right.
And every time
Right.
I asked him, oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. So when he passed out at our wedding, and a couple weeks later, I had to like take him to the hospital because he was rapidly losing weight within those 2 weeks of time. I could see his spine.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on? So I'm like, Lord, you finally gave me a good man. You're going to take him away, And I'm praying and fasting. Got the whole church praying and fasting. At this point, we had our own congregation, because we were pastoring a church at that time,
Uh-huh.
the Wake Center. And I got our congregation praying. I got our apostle praying. I got everybody praying. I'm like, Lord, what's happening? And so, I'm a researcher. So I'm taking every test. Did you get an HIV test? He was like, yeah. These tests, all of them point to that. You need to take another one. Why didn't take that? So finally, the doctor comes in. I said, hey, did you all give him an HIV test? And they were like, well, at that time, you had to ask for it. They didn't just automatically give it to you.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you need to ask them. I don't need to do that. I said, you need to tell them to give you an HIV test so we can see what's happening with you. So along the time of in between him getting the test results back, he tells me about this one night stand that he had prior to meeting me. And I was like, one night stand with this woman in Walmart.
Walmart.
So in comes 10 doctors. A couple of days later.
Mm.
And all I heard was HIV. Ma'am, you okay? What? She's like, apparently you didn't know. I said, you think? So she was like, where's your doctor? I'm going to, have them to do it stat because you need to go now. Because at the point, he was literally points away from full-blown AIDS.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Because he had it before me. And so I'm sitting here. I finally go and get my test. I run over to get my test. And by the time they had made this so stat that by the time I got back to the hospital, they had the results. She was calling me on my phone. And she was like, we normally don't do this, but I need to get your mind so that you'll be okay. You're negative. And so I go upstairs and I'm happy go lucky. Baby, I'm negative. And he's watching TV. Okay. Okay. Like, not, baby, thank God. Oh my God, thank you, Father. None of that. But okay. Oh, okay. So now I'm going into something right with this. Smell fishy.
Yeah.
But even though I was saying something was smelling fishy, I wasn't in my place where I was like, this dude is crazy. I'm like, how could a person, meet you at Walmart? How could this woman? And I remember being in the doctor with him when we were going, because he, during that time, the medication for HIV, you had to take 3 sets, different threes of it, right? And so they would put you on different ones that matched wherever you were. But once you come off of it, if you ever took the medication and stopped taking it, it's almost like your body became resistant to it. So out of 27 medications, he could only take 4. Why is that? Because you apparently had to have been there before, but I couldn't prove that. That's just my speculation for those out there, right? But he ended up not having more than the 4 medications to be able to play between between the 3. And I said to the doctor, I said, it's really sad that a woman could be walking around just giving this out like it's candy. And he says, what do you mean? I said, yeah, because he's saying that, he said that he had a one night stand and this woman gave this to him. And he said, he told you that? And I said, yeah. He was like, oh, okay. And so then the next time we came, because we had to go every week, see these doctors. He says, here's some information. Just wanted to give you some information, so you can look this up and read about more of this. And as I'm reading this medication and I'm seeing these statistics of women passing it on to men and men passing it on to men, and I'm like, this is real small. So still, again, I left it alone. Getting these are the things, right? And so going through this thing, and I'm still by his side, going through this process. And we are on our way. He had been out the hospital probably like about 90 days. At a situation where the doctor said it's going to take him about 5 years to get his numbers back up to 500. And then, we took him 90 days. I was on my face. Right. And I remember getting another doctor, because I got all his stuff coming to my phone and we driving to a speaking engagement. And I'm like, so when did you take a syphilis test? And you got syphilis?
Oh my God.
So he went back out there. Because when they run HIV and they found out you got HIV, now they doing a gamut.
Right.
You don't know everything you have. This brother went back out, which this is why I believe that he had it before me. Because he went back out knowing he had this raw again and got syphilis.
Now I'm assuming that he's out here with women. I mean, I read between the lines what you said. I heard this. I heard what you said, but I'm just.
I really thought this is a capital WHORE. I just knew he fine, like 6'3". That's like look good in the suit, brother. Pastor, like what? No, my man ain't. He a hoe. And so I'm like, nothing in my brain besides the fact that he was a little bitchy. He was like really messy, like gossipy, messy. And I never understood that. Like, why is he he act like a chick when it comes to certain things, right? But
Uh-huh.
that's because I counted that up as I was raised by my dad, right? And I'm looking for the real strong man's man, right? He wasn't that, right? And so I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Until I had my back surgery. And in having my back surgery, I'm on my own in my own uh healing time. And I remember him coming around the bed to kiss me, to tell me he's going to get his hair cut. Now, mind you, I trusted the man. He's my pastor. I trust him. He's my pastor, my husband. I trust this man. He said he's going to get his hair cut. He's going to get his hair cut. He said he's going to rehearse. He's going to rehearse. So
Mm.
I never thought, where you going? Who you going with? Why you going that long? Never, ever. And so he comes around to kiss me. And I promise you, Maurice, I wasn't there when Jesus got kissed by Judas, but I know what the kiss felt like. And
Mm-hmm.
what was that, God? Whatever that was, busted open, wide open.
Mm.
And I went to sleep. God woke me up, gave me the code to this brother's phone, told me how many texts was going to be on the phone. Look at the first two, take photos, don't look at them, take pictures, put it away. And I'll tell you what to happen next. When this is what he's going to do when he come up the stairs, he's going to do all this in the book. Details. And so I did exactly what the Holy Spirit said. And he responded exactly like the Holy Spirit said. But I still in my mind didn't think. I knew that he was out there doing something at that point. I just didn't understand. So I was like, what's going on? Who you cheating with? You with you didn't know what I went through. Why would you put me through this? Da, da, da. He's like, I've been with someone. Now, mind you, the first thing that kicked in my brain was I've been in that lifestyle. I know what someone, them means.
Right.
The whole adjectives go away. They go him, her, and his go away.
Gone. Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? So I would say, well, what does she look like? Well, he kept doing that. They, them. And I was like, so we argued, fight. We will not fight. We argue, we crying. We argue, we crying. We both fall asleep. My bed violently shook, Maurice. And I woke up going, what's wrong with you? I just had surgery. He over here knocked out. Okay, God, what you want?
Mm.
He ain't finished. What you mean he ain't finished? The man just told me he was cheating on me my whole marriage with another woman. What you mean he ain't finished? He says, go in the text message. Look at the text message. The first text message said, are you available? Yes. How much? 100. Second text message says, are you available? Okay. Yeah. How much? 50. What's your address? Again.
Mm.
So I'm like, and he paying for it? Like, I'm throwing it at the dude, and he telling me, well, can we do it on Friday? Can't do it Wednesday. I have to do it only on Fridays.
Crazy.
So Holy Spirit say, look the phone numbers up in Facebook. And I see this man in this wig, this blonde wig. And then I look up the other one. I see this man in this other blonde wig with boobs. Mind you, 3 days before then, I just had spine surgery. So I wasn't able to walk up the 27 stairs we had.
Uh-huh.
Somehow I found my way down them 27 stairs because he had 2 dogs. I had to make sure they didn't kill me because I was about to kill him. I got them dogs, pushed them cages up together, put them in there, went in the garage and got a pole. And at the time, our doorknob was off in our door, so I had to push the door up. In order for us, we had to go under the door to pull it out, to open.
Uh-huh.
I pushed the door up, waited for my kids to go to work because they had been staying with me at that time. And I said, wake the F up. He wakes up. Who do you think you're talking to like that? Because it's my pastor and my husband, right? We don't cuss. I said, wake up. I'm standing about 10 feet away. Who was you with? What do you mean I told you? I gave you all the information. I said, I've seen da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
His whole face went white. He was about as he was light skinned, light skinned. He said, where'd you get that from? I said, I seen the pictures. I said, you better start talking because somebody gonna die in here today.
Mm.
Somebody is gonna be unalived in this room today. And I began to slowly walk towards him. And as I got a little bit close enough where I could swing that pole, he started singing like a canary and began to share with me about how he had been abused as a child, which I had already prophetically saw that and said something to him about it, but he denied it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole marriage, I was basically his beard.
Use the cover up.
I was the cover up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I know that brought on some crazy emotions. Did so I'm so in this whole process, I know you got checked. You good?
Yes, absolutely. I am totally 100% good. Yep. I had to go every 3 months. Had to go keep getting tested over and over and over again for almost 2 years.
It's-
Yes, the Lord. Yes. Yes.
okay. I ain't about. I am not about to get on this thing and start shouting. And but God.
But God.
Oh my
But
God.
God.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So so you I know you felt betrayed, especially I mean now you have you know you still got your girl who went and did it with a girl. Now you married. Now
Yes.
you have this happen.
Yes.
How did that those broken pieces like you shattered? So you produced a book.
Yeah, the book was produced after the breaking.
Okay.
So once I left him while I was at church. Because infidelity to me is a deal breaker. You don't have discipline enough to not spread yourself, then
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to be with me. It's a complete deal breaker. It ain't no. So, and I was, and here's the deal. God told me to stay.
Ooh wee.
And I said, God, I have the visions. I can see him. I couldn't. I said, please let me out of this. And God said, okay, you can go, but there's a process. And I was like, oh God. And so I left and I ended up in my own place for the very first time in my entire life, living alone. Living alone. My kids were gone, had nobody else with me. And at the time, wrote a play called My Last Party. It's a suicide awareness and prevention play that I had wrote. And so I was inundated with that, trying to get the people there, trying to, I wrote and directed it, produced it. And so I was all in that. The week that I closed that play and it went up, sold out to a sold out crowd to over 300 people. Excuse me. The week after so it's like it went up on the 16th of October. A week later, I crashed. Everything in my life came to a screeching halt, and I was sitting in every trauma that I ever experienced,
Mm.
spiraling fast. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, Lord, I can't do this no more. Like there was a couple they had been married for some years. They helped pray me through this, but for an entire 365 days, no social media, no hanging out. I wasn't leaving my house. Um, where I had to go and dig up, excavate find out who Michelamone is and be forgiven. Ask for forgiveness. Forgive everybody. In that time, I met with all husbands, told them I forgive them. They forgive me, even the last one. He's now gone on. He's now deceased as of October of 2022. He died. Um, but I had to forgive everybody. I forgave everybody, including myself. I went through a complete rebirthing, as I call it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
365 days. And then that's where the book came.
Whew. There's a lot in that.
Yeah,
Um, so one, the power of forgiveness.
absolutely.
The power of forgiveness. And we know that forgiveness is not for them,
Right.
it's for us. We
Absolutely.
know that. There are some people that's going to be listening to this that don't understand that any kind of forgiveness starts with self first.
Absolutely.
And my desire and hope when people hear this, and the reason why I have this podcast, if it blows up, it blows up. But the goal and my desire is that you just walk through your story. You just walk through, and I know there's probably a bunch of other things that you could have said, but what you said was powerful enough that somebody that listens to this podcast, that listen to your story, can find hope and inspiration and move forward. The only reason I do this,
Yeah.
everybody that's been on this show has a story. And you just said some things that I know for a fact
Yeah.
is going to be lifelines to people on a path that is out here wondering and don't even know where to start. So they're going to hear and see something that you said and said, oh, if she can.
Yeah.
And if one life is changed,
Just
if one decision is made, is if one, that's all it takes.
absolutely.
And it makes all of this worth it.
Yeah.
And so you God processes you. Sometimes you moved off, you did your own thing, you
Mhm.
felt what that was like, you
Mhm.
got those battle scars, you
Mhm.
got back with God,
Yeah.
processed you again, prosper. Now, how long have you been married?
I've been married since October 14th of 2022.
October 24th of
Uh,
2022.
October 14th.
14th.
Of 2022.
October 14th of 2022. So you're coming up on 2 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Now, in this whole place of restoration and being renewed, restored, revived, how's your relationship with your children?
My relationship with my children is so much better. I mean, like me and my daughter were talking today, and I told us we need to go live because we have such great conversations. I love her as an adult. She is so wise, right?
Mhm.
The stuff that comes out her mouth is like, we had a little tiff last year where she was angry with me, but we've come through that, right? And I remember her coming to me and said, Mom, I forgive you because this is the first time you ever been here. This is the first time you've ever been in this moment. This is the first time you've ever had a daughter this age. This is the first. So everything that you've been through was your first time.
Mm.
And she was like, and I have to give you grace for that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely life changing
Yes.
out of the mouth of babes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, she ain't.
Wow.
She's 26 years old.
But out of the mouth of babes.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep.
'And that wisdom right there,
Yeah.
that's not every 26-year-old ain't saying that
Nope.
or
Uh,
even be able to recognize that. Now, with that, Does your daughter have any of your tendencies that you transferred, like the pursuit, the locked in gate, like I'm going all in? Is she affectionate? Um is she communicative? Does she communicate well? Did she pick up anything from your past life that is kind of a hindrance to her right now?
No, you know what? My daughter is, she's very confident, very self-assured. She knows what she wants. She's very driven. Like she is like, hey, I'm going. I mean, like things that she was doing that she does, I wasn't doing at her age.
Mm.
So she's very driven. She's trying to think, is there anything other than her mouth? Like she got a mouth on her. But she is a mini me. Like she's very focused on what she wants and she goes and gets it.
Well, that's awesome. How's you and your son's relationship?
Me and my son are good. My son's my flower child. He's the one that believes that the whole world should just be okay.
Okay. You gotta have one of those.
Gotta have a
You
flower
you,
child.
you
So he's
gotta have
my
one of
flower
those.
child. Yeah.
And so you produced a book.
Yes.
You produced a book. Now, I just got my book, so I hadn't read it yet, but I'm definitely going to dig into it and read it. And for everybody who's listening to this, please pull her up on her website. And I have that. Um, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put it up so that people can see the website and
Mhm.
everything. I just didn't have it in here,
That's fine.
but I'm gonna put it up. And again, hold on, we can edit all this out, but I'm just saying I'm gonna edit all this.
Okay.
But let me get back into my thing about your book.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all, the book. We ain't even gonna talk about the book because the book is just a way, if you want to be coached by her, that you can get the book. The book, her life story, and the things that she left out of this because we would probably be sitting here for a
A
whole
long
day.
time, right.
But but
Mhm.
but I'm glad what she, the pieces that she put in, that she gave, are enough to get you to understand that she is out here and she's real, and she's 100% standing on what she believes in, and she's not out here faking, and she has the receipts for her life to
Mhm.
be able to tell you and help you walk through. She is an amazing coach. She
Mhm.
sits with this team. Outside of the team is just the team, but she does her individual coaching. She has pull her up, and I'm gonna post all this stuff. I want y'all to see. I want y'all to go to her website. I want y'all to get into her coaching. I want y'all to sign up for whatever she has, whatever she's doing. Support what she is doing. And she's phenomenal on TikTok. They do a great
Mhm.
thing on TikTok. They go live on Friday. Are you part of the Friday thing that goes live on? No, Sunday.
I've been in the Velvet Room, but I haven't. I'm too old. I can't stay
Yeah,
up
I
there
can't
long.
rock with them either. But Sunday at 8 o'clock, 8:30 Eastern
8:30.
Standard Time,
Mhm.
if you want to come in and just get a glimpse of the wisdom and the knowledge that she has, please go and pull that up, and I'll put that up as well. Now, you have a coaching business.
Yes.
Y'all coach, you have books, you have all kind of things popping off,
Right.
right? You
Uh-huh.
got some things out here that's out here that's working.
Yeah.
Y'all actually even got a cruise coming up.
Oh, yes. I can't wait. I'm excited.
So the
It's
cruise,
gonna
the
be
cruise, the
October
cruise, the
the 18th to
cruise.
the 21st, on the Royal Caribbean and the Allures of the Seas. We're going to Nassau, Bahamas, and Cocoa Bay, and we're gonna have a phenomenal time. You can't, and the lowest price is like 485 for double occupancy. You can't get a hotel room for that, so y'all need to come on and make sure
And
that y'all
pull up.
yes pull up so that we
And
can have
so the
some fun.
QR code, the bigger of the QR codes are the QR code that you can scan that will take you to the to the page for the cruise so y'all can get up on this cruise, pull up on the cruise. And I'm telling y'all, I'm unfortunately not gonna be able to go. But if my niece was not turning 21,
Yeah.
and we wasn't gonna be gone, I would definitely be on this cruise. Now, not only are you gonna get to meet the remaining part of the team.
Right.
If you jump in the live, she say, "Come and get on my live so I can hug your neck."
Yes.
She won't hug your neck. She won't get on and just squeeze you to, and your head be like this. So she won't hug your neck.
A
She
hug
wants to
neck.
see she wants to see you all on this cruise.
Yes.
I am. I mean, like, I can say so much about her because I comb through as y'all go through and y'all look at her stuff and y'all see like she is really out in these streets doing amazing things. Not with not on a small scale either. Like we downplayed it, but no, she big time. I need y'all to understand. Like, no, she is real out here, and she is doing big things. Okay. I'm just saying when y'all look at her, y'all gonna be like, "Yo, okay, she she a heavyweight out of here doing big things." But really, she's just following the purpose of God for her life, and God is rewarding her.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you.
Sure.
I love this question. What is something that you didn't pay attention to when you were younger that you had to learn the hard way as you got older?
That my scars didn't make me a victim.
Mm.
That my scars actually were my badges of honor. And I needed to decide what I was going to do with them. If I was going to continue to make excuses for the things I didn't have, my mother and all these other stuff that I went through, or if I was going to decide that they were something that happened for me to create Coach Michelamone, or I was just going to wallow in self-pity and be depressed for the rest of my life. And so I didn't know that. I walked around, protecting myself from the pain of the scars instead of learning the lessons that came through them.
That is amazing advice. That your scars didn't make you a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a book. Man,
Go back and write more books.
that's really good. You know how many people are ashamed of their scars?
Yeah. Yeah.
And use that and then fall into that victim category.
You're right. You're right. I feel like I think that one of the things that we don't do, like I remember saying that I don't regret anything that's happened to me, that's happened in my life. I don't, from the grape to the molestations to the beatings to the multiple relationships and marriages. I don't regret, because if I had not gone through any of those things, my life and my purpose would have shifted. It would have changed. And so I am in agreement to where I am today.
Wow. That is powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. Oh man. You got anything else you want to say to the people?
I always leave and I kind of gave a little bit there, but I always leave any talk that I ever had to everybody has scars. It's just up to us and up to you to decide what you would do with them. Will you use them as excuses, or will you use them as power? Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Thank you for pulling up. Hey, anytime. Oh man. You've been chilling, watching the Seymour Reese Ball podcast. I love you like a play cousin.
Yeah.
And I'm out. Peace.
Bye.